Hey guys, it's the Extra Idiot here today with another LEGO gun. Today I'll be presenting to you a working LEGO Israeli Military Industries Galil. Now, before I start, I will admit that I'm not quite sure how to properly pronounce this name, be it Galil or Galil. Galil kinda rolls off my uncultured tongue a little easier, so that's what I'll be saying, acknowledging that I may be wrong here. It is, however, most certainly not Galil. With that out of the way, the Galil is a product of the Six-Day Arab-Israeli War. Although emerging victorious, Israeli forces noticed a major problem in that their FN/FAL rifles performed poorly from a combination of a dusty, sandy environment and an overall lack of maintenance. On the other hand, captured Arab-used AKs were tested and proved to perform much better under the exact same circumstances. Wanting to use the NATO 5.56 by 45mm cartridge rather than the AK-47 and AKM 7.62 by 39mm round, the Israeli Defense Force opted to replace their FALs with a domestically created design based on the AK, rather than just adopt the AK outright. Although arguably dated in a few areas, Kalashnikov's rifle is still a great design that has stood the test of time, and many are of the mindset that it is as perfect just as the day it was conceived in its original guise. Although the Galil stays an AK at heart, its inventor, Yisrael Galili, though, chose to add a few notable improvements to its design over that of the standard AK. A small change that was made was to lengthen the front of the trigger guard down further. You can see that this helps prevent the magazine release from accidentally getting bumped, but it simultaneously makes it harder to release the magazine when you actually want to. Because of this, it extends out to the right side to allow it to be pressed more easily with a thumb. This seems counterintuitive to the original change in the first place, but it's not that big a deal. One of the features similar to the AK is the dust cover safety combination on the right side, where flipping it up safes the weapon, covers the exposed slot, and prevents the bolt from moving back far enough to pick up a round in the magazine. Disengaging the safety allows it back the full length, and re-engaging it again prevents it from moving back. The change to the safety is the addition of this lever, set into the left side of the pistol grip, which fits nicely under a right-hander's thumb. Here you can see how the safety is functional and blocks the trigger from being pulled. You can't see the two internal gears connecting them, but here you can see how that lever and the right side dust cover move in tandem with each other. One of the weaker points on the AK is its sights. The top dust cover is easy to take off and put back on for maintenance, but as a result is not very secure. This would result in inconsistent accuracy issues if the rear sights were mounted on it, and so they're mounted more forward in a secure location. This shortens the sight radius and makes the use of an aperture sight impossible that far from a shooter's eye, necessitating the use of a less precise notch. This is perfectly adequate for most circumstances, but Galili elected to improve this. The dust cover on the Galil is much more firmly and securely mounted, creating a more consistent lockup and a better base for a rear sight. A two-position flip aperture sight is used, with a smaller hole and a larger one for short-range use. This is paired with a hooded front sight post mounted on the gas tube. And the rear sight can also be positioned halfway between either position to lower it just enough to use this very large flip-up notch. Unfortunately, I hadn't noticed that it didn't go into focus, but the real thing featured a lightly illuminated dot on either side for use at night. This would be used with a similarly illuminated flip-up front sight, but I wasn't able to effectively fit anything here on the LEGO version. The stock on the Galil folds to the right side of the weapon. It has no sort of specific mechanism to keep it that way, and my LEGO version just uses this pin to keep it held in place by friction. Upon unfolding, it immediately latches secure. The real stock features a tooth-like wedge that hooks into a slot and is pushed downwards in order to unlock it and fold it. It wiggles a bit, but the LEGO model is securely held. The locking mechanism I used are these two short axles, which can be pulled out to unlock them and are held inwards by a rubber band, automatically locking them when the stock is swung out. Not every rifle was equipped with one, but a common sight on Galils is an attached bipod. It's held under the handguard and can be released by squeezing the legs together. The hinge connecting the legs acts as the spring on the real one. It won't always force the legs out automatically, but it will keep them from just flopping around. The bipod could then be used as a stable mounting point, but with enough wiggle room to allow the weapon to be adjusted on top of it. Folding it up, this stud is what locks it in place. and taking the handguard off reveals the slot into which it fits. A cool feature on the bipod is a section just in front of the pivot point, shaped to be used as a wire cutter. Additionally, on either side of the handguard's rear would be the lips that serve to lock the real bipod legs folded up. These were designed to be a shape capable of being used as a bottle opener. Soldiers were known to use the feed lips on their magazines to open bottles, which could wind up damaging them and result in feeding issues. Rather than attempt to get them to stop doing that, this safer alternative to it was used instead. Although the Galil fires the NATO 5.56 cartridge, it uses its own proprietary magazine. This isn't an issue for a military using a domestically produced rifle, but it is for, say, the US civilian market, where STANAG magazines, M16 style, are commonplace and readily available, and Galil mags are not so much. As such, adapters have been made that insert and lock like normal Galil mags, and then fit STANAG magazines into them, with a paddle on the left side that hooks into the magazine's cutout. This would be totally pointless to replicate in LEGO, since I can just make a magazine receiver that fit into each other however I want. So naturally I made one. Modifying the existing magazine that I built, it's one stud less in length, has a slot for the new magazine catch on the left side, and doesn't have the front notches that lock it in place. The adapter, though, has lips in the front to attach it and a slot in the back to secure it with the existing magazine release. The new magazine slides in and is locked in by this tooth piece connected to the paddle. As mentioned, the adapter inserts like a normal Galil magazine, though it requires a little bit of finagling to get it in securely. Once in, you can push the front of the paddle to release the magazine. Unfortunately, it often gets stuck, and this could be fixed by sanding down one of the sides of the tooth. With it in, the new magazine can be inserted and removed straightly, instead of with the usual rocking motion. As always, here's what you've really been waiting for, seeing it shoot. To wrap this up, let's take a look inside. On the right is the safety mechanism. The smaller gear is a bit hidden, but you can see the larger gear on the lower piece. With the lever to the rear, the top of the trigger is blocked from going forward, preventing the trigger itself from being pulled backwards. Disengaging it, you can see the trigger connected to a pivoting beam that it lowers when pressed. Engaging the safety again, towards the top is a piece that is rotated upwards. This is what blocks the bolt from going back fully. It's positioned at such a point that it prevents this rounded firing piece from getting behind a round in the magazine, at which point it would then push it forward and into the barrel. When pulling the bolt back, it pulls on this piece below it, which forces the trigger mechanism down until it goes past it and is locked behind it. Pulling the trigger then releases it and allows it forward from the rubber band's tension. Though not specific to the AK, you can see how the magazine has the AK's characteristic rock and lock style of insertion. Using the other wall, you can see how the front lips are positioned and then the magazine is rotated into place. With it inserted, the rounded firing piece first pushes the top round down and out of the way, before then getting behind the trigger. It's now ready to fire. I hope you all enjoyed and found this video interesting. For anyone who'd like to build this rifle for themselves, I've linked downloads to 2 LEGO Digital Designer files in the description, one for the Galil and the other for the magazine adapter. Thanks for watching.